What's up, YouTube? I'm back. So you guys don't know this, but my home theater receiver went off. I was watching the news one morning and it just made a popping noise and it would never turn back on after that. So obviously I wanted to get it replaced. It wasn't entirely unexpected. It was making some noises and doing some strange things, had some ghosts in the machine. So I figured it was probably going to go up soon. So wasn't entirely unexpected. But the one that I ended up choosing was, I stuck with Onkyo. I thought I would be switching to maybe Yamaha or Denon or something else, but I ended up sticking with Onkyo, and I bought the TX-NR636 home theater receiver. So far, it's been pretty good. Major impressions so far are it's got a bit more depth than my old receiver. My old receiver was made in probably 2007 or 2008. And this one obviously came out last year in 2014. So you'd expect some improvements. It does sound more full than my older receiver. But you also lose some features as well, like Odyssey, the room correction software that runs when you calibrate the receiver. So Onkyo came up with their own system. I don't know what they call it, audio EQ or something like that, and it's not quite as good as Odyssey. And hopefully, you know, as the years progress, Onkyo will be able to improve the system or maybe switch back to Odyssey. But I think they did it as a cost-saving measure, so they could fit some other features like Dolby Atmos, which I'll go over in a second, like Dolby Atmos and some other things, without breaking the bank on these receivers. So this is, I'm not sure if this is the lowest model in this series or not. I think it is, but really, for the most part, all the way up until maybe the 1030, you're getting the same features, in my opinion. You get a little bit more wattage with each one. I think one may add a couple channels as far as your height channels for Dolby Atmos, but you're not really making a big jump until you hit the TX-NR 1030, which is way out of my price range. It's over $1,000, so it wasn't something that I was willing to do. A little backstory. Like I said, my last receiver was made in 2007, 2008, and I wasn't really hankering for a new receiver. It had everything I wanted. It had all the master audio codecs, all the major features that I needed. I could plug in my iPod, my iPad if I needed to. So I really didn't need to get a new receiver. It's only the fact that, you know, that one broke, and it kind of forced my hand a little bit. So that's pretty much it. This one has all the newer features like Wi-Fi, and it's got an on-screen display, and it's got, you know, like apps on it like Spotify. You can see the Spotify picture on it, and Pandora, and all that good stuff. In my opinion, a lot of that stuff is unnecessary. But I guess at this point I'm coming from the old school, so it really doesn't make a difference. But you know, if you are interested in that stuff, it does have that, you know, that stuff. But to me, it doesn't make a difference. I'd rather hear it than see it, personally. But you know, all that stuff is nice to have. It's got Bluetooth and all that good stuff. So pretty easy to set up. Like I said, it does have some sort of room correction software, tuning software, whatever it is. What it's doing, I'm not really sure. I still went in and changed all my frequency cutoffs, which you'll probably have to do too. I changed those manually, so you'll have to do that too, I'm sure. So without wasting too much of your time, I have a 5.1 setup, and if you look at my other videos, you'll see I use the Acoustic brand front stage. I don't remember what the name of these speakers are, but my other videos will go over those speakers if you care. And then I've also got kind of a crude height speaker setup with the speakers that came with my old receiver that blew up. So I'm going to test this out and see how it goes. Hopefully it goes well. Hopefully I notice a difference. Yeah, so here we go. So like I said, I've got my PS4 running here, and also my very crude Dolby Atmos setup. So I've got my 3 center channels, 2 height channels in the front, and also I've got my 2 surround channels on both sides of my couch here. I have not tuned any of this as far as the height channels go. Everything else has been tuned. I'll probably tune it after this little test. But like I said, I have John Wick, if I haven't said that already. I have John Wick in my Blu-ray player right now. So I'm going to switch over to that and see. John Wick is a Dolby Atmos encoded audio Blu-ray. And I've seen this movie already and I love it, so I didn't mind spending a few bucks to buy the Blu-ray disc. It'll be a nice movie to show off with when friends come over and whatnot. So also, if you have not seen John Wick, I highly recommend it. It's definitely Keanu Reeves at his best, so go check it out. Let's go ahead and start this up. I'm not sure if there's any kind of configuration that needs to be done to get this to work. And like I said, this is not tuned at all as far as the height speakers go, so I may have to go back and adjust the levels. But I just want to see, you know, if I can notice a difference with the Atmos setup from the rip or not. One thing I do not like, I don't know why I'm so annoyed by this, but one thing I don't like about this receiver is that you cannot show the codec that the receiver is encoding or decoding or whatever on the front display of the receiver. And I thought that was kind of odd. My old receiver, I didn't have to choose I could choose pretty much whatever I wanted the front display to show at all times. And this one you can't. It only shows whatever input that you're watching, which I think is super annoying. If I'm watching, you know, Dolby Atmos, I want to see that Dolby Atmos codec on the front of my receiver. Why it doesn't do that, I don't know. Maybe they'll you know, change that in a firmware update or something like that. I don't know. But that's super annoying to me. And I'm not annoyed by anything. I'm a pretty even keel person, but I wish they would change that somehow. And I have not seen this movie on Blu-ray just yet, so I don't know what all I have to do to skip through all this stuff. Trying to skip through the previews. So you can hit a button, and I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me move up a little bit. So if you hit the display button, it'll switch over. It'll show you. So right now it's on Dolby Surround. Well, it's using Dolby Surround, I guess. It also has a display, you know, up on the screen to tell you what codec is being used, and I'm assuming that's because I'm not in the actual movie just yet. And let me go to setup real quick, just to set up my audio, make sure that it is using the Dolby Atmos. Okay, so it is on Dolby Atmos. So let me back out of here. And we'll play. That's a pretty cool demo. Let me get a little volume here. Also, compared to my old receiver, I don't have to turn this one up nearly as loud. I don't know why that is. I'm assuming it's because the amplifier is more efficient or better. My old one was, but normally when I watch movies, it needs to be up at around 30, or I'm sorry, on my old one it needed to be at around 40 to 45 in order for me to enjoy it. This one I can probably turn it down to between, I don't know, 30 and 35-ish, around there, so it's pretty cool. Let's see if I can skip through some of this stuff. So you can see when I hit the display button on my remote, It should pop on the screen. You can see it says Dolby Atmos right there now. So it is using the Dolby Atmos track.
Don't blame yourself. What are you really doing here, Marcus? Just checking up on an old friend. Goodbye, John.
Not noticing anything so far. And this is not the optimal setup, by the way. Normally, you don't want to have speakers up here on your front wall. Normally, you want to have them up on your ceiling somewhere directly above you, raining that audio down on top of your head as opposed to in front of you, you know, as high as it'll go.
Yes.
Sign here, please.
So keep that in mind. Also, Dolby Atmos has support for up to 7 channels of, I think they call this lower layer, the ones on the bottom, and then 4 channels up in the ceiling.
Sorry.
Here you go. Good night.
Thanks.
See if I can just skip to something with a little more action. Okay, so my phone cut out there. And I did a couple things while the phone was trying to cool down to make the video. One thing is I kind of dialed the system in a little more to include the front height speakers. I ran Odyssey one more time and also configured the sound for some of the front speakers a little bit, changed some of the cutoffs and stuff like that. And then I went back and watched the scene. It just went through the scene where the guys break into his house and he's shooting up all the guys that are breaking into his house. And I watched the scene. I was trying to, you know, like toggle back and forth between, you know, the height speakers being on and them being off. And I guess my impression of the whole thing is that, at least in this particular setup, the height speakers aren't like in your face. I guess some people would probably expect that, you know, wow, I just heard something coming from above me. And it's not like that. It's not like you can pick out sounds that are coming from, you know, over top of your head. And I don't know if that's the way that it's supposed to be or not. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And I guess it also depends on the movie that you're watching too. But in this instance, and I'm sure a little bit of it has to do with where my speakers are, but I guess the best way that I could put it is that it adds almost a sense of ambiance to the sound, I guess. Normally when you don't have front height speakers, even though, you know, no matter how good your speakers are, it's still going to sound a bit artificial. It's still going to sound like it's coming from a speaker. And, you know, you can buy more expensive speakers to minimize on that as much as possible, but it's to some end it's always gonna sound like like the sound is coming from a speaker, like someone's talking from a speaker. In my opinion, what the Atmos does is it kind of almost makes the speakers disappear into the front sound stage. It adds I guess like a sense of ambiance or atmosphere, Dolby Atmos, to the sound. So like, say you were in a cavern or something, it would, I mean, you wouldn't directly notice any sounds coming from above your head, but it would feel like you were in it would feel cavernous. The sound would feel cavernous, if that makes any sense. And that's the impression that I get from it so far. It's very nuanced in my opinion, at least in this front setup. Maybe someone can chime in that has the overhead speakers and can give a better impression of how it is. But in my experience, that's what it sounds like to me, and it's pretty cool. I'm not going to say it's a bad thing. I actually like it, but I guess if I had to put a number on it, I would say 95% of people would never notice. You know, if I put something put a false wall up there to cover those speakers, 95% of people that sat down and listened to the system in this room would never notice that would never know that there are speakers up there. They would say that the sound sounded full. If I was in, you know, a cathedral or a church, they would say, wow, it really sounds like a cathedral in here, but they would never know that those speakers were up there. So that's my take on it. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But as far as the box goes, the TX-NR636, I really like it. Like I said, some of the more gimmicky stuff I don't really use. I guess one of the features that I didn't have on my old box was Wi-Fi. And the only thing that I would really use that for is to update the firmware on the box, which I actually did, and I thought that was kind of cool. My older receiver, I'm assuming if there was ever any firmware to be updated, you'd have to do it either by USB if it was possible, which I'm not entirely sure, probably wasn't, or you would have to send it back in and have them updated. So I think it's pretty cool that you can download firmware updates using the Wi-Fi signal. So so far so good. I'll let you know how it goes. Like I said, my Atmos setup is a 5.1.2, what they call a 5.1.2, meaning that it's a normal 5.1 setup, meaning three front speakers and then 2 surround speakers on either side of me and a subwoofer, and then the 0.2 on the end is the overhead speakers, the height speakers, if you will. So that's my impression. If anybody else has any comments or questions or anything, just let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to